there today?
We have a crew. We've been chatting, and even Eric Meadows came in
Hi,
earlier.
Eric. Is he
He
gone?
says hi.
Or is he there?
He's here.
Hi.
He's here with some other dude and Griffin. We'll find out who that other guy is. Griffin has his girl here.
Hi.
We have the sweet peas that are here.
Hi,
There's
sweet peas.
5 of them. The light blue one, not the fish looking one. It's not a fish looking one. It's a light blue kind of a color. That is raw energy, not R-A-W. Would you say R-A? Yeah, R-A, energy. If you don't know what that is, you can research it so that you have questions to ask for with that type of energy.
Okay.
So I was discussing where kind of everybody was and from before we connected. I have your mom,
Hi, Mom.
Peggy.
I love you. Hi, Peggy.
I'm not going to forget her. Your mom says hi. Your mom is with her mom.
Hi, Mom.
There's
Hi,
your
Grandma.
uncle behind
Raj.
your grandmother, Roger. Your father-in-law, I don't see him today.
Carl? Where the
Carl?
heck is he?
I don't know. Where the heck is he? Where is he?
He's late.
Griffin says, no, he's not late. He's just not coming.
Okay. Is he okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. There are 2 other women that are off to my right-hand side, and I don't know who they are yet.
So last time we talked about transitions, which I wanted to talk about that a little bit right now because I just watched Cindy's grandmother pass away. I didn't watch, but I went 2 days before she left, and I thought, I've never witnessed this before. I watched my grandmother, I watched my mom, I've watched my uncle, and this was different because I thought she was on medication, but she was on nothing. And she was in an elderly care center on hospice, and you'd pick up her arms, Jamie, and they would just fall, right? And her eyes were halfway open. But I asked her first husband, and it scared Cindy, not scared her, but startled, because I go, is Carl here? Her name's June. She just crossed over yesterday, the grandmother. And she looked over and looked back, and Cindy goes, oh my God, because she wasn't responsive at all until then. And she looked up like in a certain spot and then looked back.
That was a yes.
Yes, for sure. So I wanted to talk about transitions because watching her, like, is it her choice when she goes, Griffin? Eric, anybody? Because it took her about a few days of not eating, being unresponsive. I think they put her on oxygen and morphine in the end because her heart rate went up too high. Like she's breathing so hard. Is it her choice of how to shut down, or does it literally take that long to let your body shut down?
It doesn't take that long, Griffin says, to let your body shut down. Eric's chiming in, and he says, yeah, it's going to be her choice. And Eric says most of the time people don't know that it's their choice, and they're just kind of waiting because nobody actively teaches you how to die.
Right.
That cracks Griffin up.
It's so true.
He goes, yeah, that's not a class like, how to survive if you fall into a pool.
Right.
Like, how do you survive when you enter into death? And he goes, that's not a thing.
But it is profound when you say that. Like, we giggle and chuckle at that, but at the same time, we all have a ticket for that. And we have childbirth classes and all that stuff. You're right. That's maybe why we're so scared of dying, because even me seeing it right in front of my face, I was thinking, gosh, I've got to ask Griffin, is it her choice? Like, does she know we're here? What is she waiting for? If she's on no medication and she's literally halfway checked out, which is so obvious when you pick up her arms, is it the waiting for all the energy to leave? Or is it her, her choice?
Griffin says, totally her choice. And goes, I think people who have a practice of meditation, Mom, they understand what it's like to be in that state of mind, and they know how to progress the act of dying by manually shutting down the physical body and walking into the light. Eric agrees. People who have meditation practice, transcendental meditation, outer body experiences, they're used to that feeling of letting go of the body. Griffin says, but not everybody has that experience. So here we have, an elderly person who's never been taught that, and to have faith in that thing, it will come for you. Death will come for you, is kind of what we're told. So when you're in that limbo area, you just kind of wait for death to come to you. And Griffin says, for me, Mom, what I've seen, it means that you got to wait for your body to actually die instead of proactively encouraging it to let go.
Yeah, she was
She knew.
95 years old.
Oh, she knew you were in the room. She knew everything that was happening.
Wow.
He said, I went with you. He was sharing. I wish you would have mentioned beyond Carl, the husband. Is your mom here? Is your dad here? He says you could have had her looking all over the room.
I know. All I said was, is Carl here? And then I said, do you see Griffin? Can you please say hi to Griffin for me?
He said, I was there.
Yeah.
He says, but she didn't need to say hi to me.
No.
He says, I've got her number now. But Mom, she's way too cute. Like, talking about somebody so happy to come home. He's like, every time you look at her, she was so happy. It's like she was crying. Like, you couldn't have a conversation with her. She was too happy. She wasn't going to answer you. She wasn't going to say anything. He said, we're going to have to get a hold of her days later.
She was ready, right? Totally.
Yes.
Beyond ready. Yeah. But it was interesting to watch because, my mom, when you transitioned, you said you had trouble letting go. You said, I just couldn't let go.
She says, I didn't want to.
Right?
She said, if I let go, then that means I let go, and I was the quitter, and I was the one who stopped. And she goes, that's just not me.
Right. What made you finally let go when you saw everybody you recognized, or?
That does help. But she said I was also tired.
So tired, huh?
And I had to admit that I was tired. And she said, I was told, she's repeating this, I was told, like somebody else telling her, let go. That by letting go, I was taking care of myself. And she said, I never would have. Her hands are moving. I never would have seen it like that. I wouldn't have put that together.
All of her
Letting
children
go.
were telling her to let go, which is very hard to tell your mother that.
She said it's also very hard to listen to your children.
Tell you that, right? Exactly. Victoria wants to know, Peggy, how was your transition? Your daughter wants to know. I know she worried about you, and you were in hospice, and she thought you were in pain, and we talked about this before, but it didn't record, that if you videotape someone that was confused and someone that was dying, they would look very similar.
Really? Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
brilliant.
She didn't want Victoria to keep thinking she was in pain. She said, you're just confused.
She was. She said there are so many options. There's conversations happening across the room right now.
Good.
Your mom, Peggy, Griffin, Eric.
Right.
They were talking about the options because Peggy was mentioning to stay, to rest, which is where you go ahead and you cross over, but it's in this peaceful place where you can heal and mend.
Uh-huh.
Healing space.
Right.
Or go to your party. she felt like she had a party waiting. Your mom really didn't feel like there was a party. She was very, thinking, I don't need to let go. I don't need to quit. If this is supposed to happen, it's supposed to come get me, not me walk to it.
Right.
Whereas Peggy here recalls having choices of different kinds. Oh, her pain, or she didn't have the pain when she was crossing. She's talking about it was a bit of a joint effort. Her body had to be ready. She said, I had to wait until I was the absolute weakest I could be before letting go of the body, because she knew, she says, if I came back into it, I didn't want to live like that anymore. It had to get so bad that I was done with it.
Like, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not doing that one again.
Right.
And so that's how it met. The body got weak. She made the choice. But she remembers her family being there. That's nice.
Very. And it's such a guessing game, because going back to what Eric brought up is that we aren't taught how to die. So when you're witnessing it, you're wondering, are you in pain, or what are you thinking? What are you feeling? It's probably harder for the people watching in some ways.
That's true. I remember when my Nana in January, I got a chance to be alone with her in the room, and she always recognized me,
Does she have
which was
Alzheimer's?
awesome. Yeah, she had dementia, beginning of Alzheimer's, and she'd look at her own children and talk, and she knew who people were, but there were times she didn't know anything. And she asked me what was going on, and she told me she wasn't ready to go when she was alert. And I said, but this is what your body's doing.
Did that make you sad, Jamie?
Yes and no. Like, I'm sad now thinking about it, but like in the moment, being able to be honest with her, even though she's having an experience that I can't describe because I'm not in there with her.
Right.
But I think if I was there and I was talking about it, I would want somebody to come up to me and go, like, this is it. This is the big hoorah. Like, you're doing this. This is your death march. Like,
right. Like, I kept telling my mom, I'm so proud of you. You can do this.
Yes. It was almost like coaching someone through labor.
My grandma, too, when I got the call she had died, I cheered out loud because she was also 92. And it's like I knew she didn't want to quit either. So I was like, you did it. You did it,
Yay for the parties.
Right?
Yes. But there's a nice, Eric's talking about being very honest, with people. Some people just, oh no, you're fine, go back to sleep. And that's great, but for that moment of awakeness, for them to get an understanding or an encouragement or to get their head on the same page, it's not doing them any good. It's okay to talk about death. Griffin was joking a moment ago that he's going to ask Junebug out on a date. Yeah, he's calling her Junebug because that's what her mother calls her. And so now that's what Griffin is going to call her.
Who's Junebug?
The woman that crossed over.
Oh, yeah, June. How cute.
Junebug.
Ask her out on a date?
Yeah, he's going to ask her out on a date.
Oh, so sweet.
He's going to steal her from Carl. He says, I'm going to take her dancing.
So sweet.
He's so serious, too. Like, this date is going to go down.
So sweet.
We want a live report of it when you come back. He said, great, deal.
So sweet. So, Eric, you think honesty is the best policy when someone's lying, they're dying, not to say, go to sleep, you're going to be fine. Just be honest.
Yeah, excuse my language, but he says, fuck pacifying someone. There's when somebody's in labor and they're pushing, you're not going to go, oh, just chill out, don't think about it, everything's going to come out fine. You're going to go, no, you're having a baby. Like, this is what's happening.
Right.
There's a call to attention to the act of the dying. And Eric says, I think if we can start changing our tone, and he said, I believe that this would help the movement, especially in the Western culture, for people to start talking about death and dying. And then hell, maybe we'd start building our effing communities again. He goes, because we've kind of lost them. We send our parents off. We send our grandparents off. We don't live in family communities. We have our immediate family. He says we've lost touch with so many things that the understanding of death has just escaped us too.
I agree with that because I feel like we've been taught to be afraid to talk about it. Because I know when my father-in-law was dying or he was in a coma and I went to visit him, I was like, if you want to go, you can go. If you want to stay, you can stay. Because I didn't want to play God, but at the same time, I knew he would be happier to go, but I was afraid to say it.
Eric goes, yeah, Marshawn, but if he jumped out of that coma and said, am I dying? He goes, what would you say?
Let's get the doctor.
He goes, come on, you couldn't just say to him, you could be.
Real chance that we all are. And yeah,
we all
like
dying a bit every day, aren't we?
Right.
But there's got to be a time when we know a person is crossing over, when they've passed all the signs, and they look at you and they want to know what's going on, that we can say it with pride, and we can help them and be there with them for the journey.
I agree with that 1,000,000%, because if I was in the position of Cindy's grandmother at 95, laying there, so clear that she's halfway out of her body, I didn't feel afraid to say, let go, don't be afraid, say hi to Griffen. I would want someone to say that to me.
Yes.
Because I don't know what's going on in her head. Like, is she halfway here, halfway there? Is she confused? Is she what? You know what I mean?
Right. Eric says, even if she's not confused and you had a background sound in your head and she's like, oh, I'm checking out, but I'm taking my time. But the sound in the back of her head is your lovely voice going, find that light, go to it. That's where you need to go. Don't need to wait here. Keep walking, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it'd be so wonderful to have that kind of encouragement instead of, don't leave me or do what you need to do. Well, hell, what if they don't know what they want to do?
Exactly.
Griffin's cutting up. He was like, right, what if I'm in the process and I just want a scoop of ice cream? He's like,
right. It is weird because you wonder what they're thinking because they're so out of it. You do. You wonder, like, I want to tell you you're safe. You're in a safe place. You can go. You're being cared for. Like, those things, because you don't even know. They look so out of it. You don't know what they know and they don't know.
It's true.
To make them feel secure. Like, I would want someone to tell me, just like when a baby's sick. When Griff was sick as a baby, I told him where he was. His stomach got hurt. You know what I mean? I told him, you're going to be okay. Because you just feel like, we can deal in reality if we're honest with each other. We can talk about what's going on. But if you don't know what's going on, I feel that's more fearful.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right?
Eric is green. Yes.
Exactly.